name is Gene Baldwin. I'm ending my work years at Mary Free Bed. I've worked at Mary Free Bed for 47 years. I'm the driver for Mary Free Bed, taking the patients to their appointments outside Mary Free Bed. The doctors that don't come to Mary Free Bed, the dentists and the eye doctors and so on. And I was 21 years old when I started. It's made a good life for me. I started working for Mary Free Bed on Cherry Street in 1964. And it was a rather different place, a nice place. I remember both places. It got old, and we needed a new home. Dr. Folland proposed a new Mary Free Bed. He was the medical director at Mary Free Bed then, and they went to the New York bond market and came back with the money to build a new hospital. And I knew the new building was going to be started because I was coming in the old building on Cherry Street one day, and a big truckload of pipes pulled up on a big truck, and the fellow hollered out at me, "I've never drove in Grand Rapids before. I'm looking for Mary Free Bed." And the policeman down told me it was at 920 Cherry Street. And I said, "The building site's next to St. Mary's. You've come too far." I knew something was going to happen because there was a laundromat on the corner down here. And they called me in the business office and they said, "Gene, we're going to send you down to buy the laundromat." And I said, I didn't understand what they meant. So they gave me a check, and the washing machines were all going in there and everything. And I went in there, and the fellow came up and he said, I said, "I'm from Mary Free Bed, and they want you to have this check." And then he turned around and looked and pointed at me. He said, "It's yours." Everybody was excited about this, and the nursing staff did some of the first plastering on the third floor. Every week I would bring 4 or 5 people down to see the new Mary Free Bed here. And I brought the 5 or 6 of the nursing staff down here, and one of them said, "We would really like to do a little plastering up here." And the plaster said, "Do you have a card?" And they said no. Well, he said, "I really can't do this. I'll let you do this." But he said, we can get around this. I'm going to put some plaster on these boards, and I'm going to walk out and have a cigarette. And so in September of '76, they had a parade from the old place on Cherry Street down here, and I was in the parade. I think there's a picture of it here. And so the therapists were all waiting for us at the front door. They went around the whole circle of the driveway out here. And we pulled in, and then that was the start of this place here. And gradually, the houses got torn down across the street, and they built the outpatient building and the parking lot, and then the latest building, the Mary Ives building on the corner.
Can you talk about patients coming from around the United States?
Yes. This was an interesting time. We'd seen little children, 5- and 6-year-olds, come here and go through the program until they were grown up. And I remember one, Donald Lund. He came from Iowa, and nice fellow. And he started out as a young fellow here, 7 or 8 years old. And the last time I seen him, he was a student at the University of Iowa. And one thing that he wanted to do very much, he worked for the Iowa Big Ten football team in the equipment room. And he wanted to go with the Iowa team on a road game. And they never consented to that. So the end of one of the seasons, one of the athletic directors came and told him, "The players and the coach of Iowa here want you to go on a trip with them to one of the Big Ten games next season, and when the Iowa team plays on the road." And there was a kind of a misfall. During the summer, he had to get back in a wheelchair again. And he was worried about not being able to go with the Iowa team on a road game. But he came to Mary Free Bed. They got him going again, and he was with the Iowa team when they went on the road game. So that made him really, really happy. But the Iowa coach told him the only way that they could take him was if he walked. They couldn't take him in a wheelchair. We had a real interesting woman come from Montana. She lived on a farm in Montana, and she lost her arm and she was so thankful for coming to Mary Free Bed. It was Christmas time, and she lived on a cattle farm, and somebody had to be there all the time. There was just something going on all the time, so they left her in charge, and they lived in a rural part of Montana, where the stores were a long way, so it took them all day to go shopping and come back again. Well, it was time to feed the cattle, and they had a silage unloader. And it was really electrical. You just turned it on, and the machine on top of the silo would start throwing the silage down, and the cattle ate it. Well, she turned it on, and no silage came down. So that means you have to go up the silo and get it and find out why it's not working, because the cattle needed to be fed. She got up there, and the whole thing was froze on top of the silo. So you have to get in. You have to get in with a pitchfork and start loosening the silage up. Well, she got up there and slipped and fell, and the auger caught her arm, and it started dragging her into it. And mechanically it shut itself off, but she was wound up in it. Well, the thing that saved her life, another farmer, a friend of theirs, came over to visit. It was a Saturday afternoon, and he heard her screaming in the silo. And he crawled up the silo and got her out of it, but he didn't know how. It's just a tube. He didn't know how he was going to get he and her down the silo. It was like a round tube, so he put her on his shoulders, and carried her down the silo to the ground and took her to the hospital. Then after that, she came to Mary Free Bed as a patient. I've always thought Mary Free Bed's presence here has been the revitalization of Wealthy Street. It was going down to nothing with tinders here 10 years ago. But it's showing life now like I haven't seen it show before.
How many accidents, Gene, in the 43 years?
There's been a couple. The first one I was in was at Fulton in Lafayette. A dirt truck or a sand dump truck was coming down the hill, and he was signaling he couldn't stop it. And a car crossed Fulton Street in front of him, and he hit the car and drove it right into the And then on Easttown, where the cinema, where they rent videos out there, a car pulled out of the parking lot and hit Mary Free Bed van. But that's about the only time.
So 2 accidents. Gene, how many days of work have you missed at Mary Free Bed in the 47 years?
2. I started working when I was 18, and I'm going to have my first week I've had off in a long time. I've had nice time off from Mary Free Bed. I've been a lot of nice places working, but I've never had a week off. I've always liked the people at Mary Free Bed. You couldn't have asked for any nicer people to work for. I've met them all. There's been slow times and fast times, and Mary Free Bed has met those times, it's part of the staff, and I've always liked the people here, and I've shared what I could with them. I've enjoyed my years at Mary Free Bed. It went faster than I ever thought it would, and it's been one of the best parts of my life has been my work. I've had other nice things too, but I've always liked that, and I'm going to miss that part of it also. But